Pamiętasz?
Was collapsing.
Yeah.
Piękny ten wywiad.
With the loss of major sections of the original interviews by sources and beings unknown, we return now in the summer to
Dobrze, że z angielskiego tylko uważaj co nam mówi, żebyś notował gdzieś na kartce.
Tak, notuj mi, notuj.
Weź sobie notatki.
Tak, szybko notuj.
Ona tą taśmę zdejmą, bo to jest za bardzo tajne.
No.
Notuj w notatniku ten.
Tak.
Posłuchaj.
But here are some of them as we return to Sue.
I może zamiast tych głupot byś się spojrzał na ten ekran.
Spójrz się na ten ekran. I nie gadaj tylko głupot, bo przeszkadzasz.
Bo tego już potem nie obejrzy, bo oni to wycofają tą taśmę, bo to jest za bardzo tajne.
Ale ja mam nagrane to.
Co?
Tak.
Jak masz nagrane?
No mam nagrane.
Just before the breakup of the Soviet Union, where top
No
US
słuchaj, co nam mówi?
in
Bo to
attendance.
znasz świetnie angielski.
We are here today.
Ja i chiński będę znała.
Nie, ale weź kartkę jakąś pisaną, bo ty lepiej znasz angielski. Posłuchaj, co ona mówi. Zobacz. Przyjrzyj się jej.
So could you go over that again about specifically where Moscow and things like that?
Opowiedz szczególnie o tym spotkaniu w Moskwie.
Yes, it was interesting to find out what parts of the interview were deleted, which to me show that those are the parts that people should not know. Big Brother doesn't want that people know about space and real findings in space.
To jest moja prababcia.
This Moscow conference was opened by General Popovich, a cosmonaut, and Dr. Asharsa was the chairman, and I did not know at that time that he was also chief of
Tylko pamiętaj, żebyś uchwycił
No.
po angielsku, co
Tak,
ona mówi dokładnie.
także słuchaj dobrze, co ona mówi. Nie stosuj mobbingu, nie zmuszaj.
Nie możesz
Jak
notować.
which was incredible in my mind. At the end,
So this was open to the general public
Yes.
in Moscow as well.
yes, but we were only 4 from the West. They were all over from the Soviet Union at that time. And those from the West, there was an American general, Army's intelligence chief, can you imagine? And his, yes, General Albert Stavelbein, and his now wife, psychiatrist Rima Laikov, and Victoria, who was a journalist and now married to Colonel John Alexander, who is very, very knowledgeable about space. They
Specjalistka
were
pola
also
psychologii kosmicznej, z kosmitami, która jest,
And,
pracuje z
the
USA
end
i z
of
Rosji.
tak, tak, ona świetna jest.
asked if I would like to see something very specific, and I couldn't understand what. I said, sure, what do you want to show me? And they took me to the cellar of this institute, and it was behind so thick iron doors, several of them, 3, 4, I recall, and I thought, what is this? This is like going to a secret vault of the bank. And there was a huge hall full of UFO pictures from all the walls, in all the walls, and then a huge map of the Soviet Union with pins. And I stopped immediately and said, what are these? They ignored my question. I thought that they could have been landing sites of UFOs. But anyway, what they specifically wanted me to see was a story of Anatoly Malchev. And I was so surprised because I have lectured of Anatoly Malchev in my previous lectures, because this happened to have been 75.
Who is she exactly?
Well, he was a woodworker in the woods, and all of a sudden a UFO landed next to him. And humanoids came out and asked him for a ride to come along. And he was courageous, and he went along. And then they were flying for some time, and they passed the moon. And on the other side of the moon, the dark side, so-called, of the moon, he saw lights, and he asked, what are these? So he was told there are bases on the dark side of the moon.
Ale czy nie przeszkadza jemu nagrywać?
And when he got out, he got
Tego potem już nie będzie tak.
No ty gadasz i to się nagrywa niepotrzebnie.
Meet him were his dead relatives and friends who were in perfect shape and beautiful and in perfect health. And this was deleted. So I thought that's very interesting, because that shows something about life on planet Earth. It showed to me, at least, that we're all one. ETs, the dead, which we call the dead, the energy of the dead, is is not dead, but just continues,
Well, they're
and us.
their souls, perhaps, or
Well, you can call them, I mean, I would use rather a not religious term like soul, I would say energy bodies. We are light energy, beings of light. And that was there. It was not in the physical, even it looked exactly like the physical in the last reincarnation. And if somebody was blind or deaf or had an amputated arm, they were whole. Because all these are in the physical body, they are not in the light body. Your light body cannot have any defects. And that maybe explains a medical phenomena of a so-called phantom touch. You know, if somebody has amputated your arm, so you still feel the pain in your fingers, and you don't have physical fingers.
And Dr. Harry Oldfield in England or in Wales has actually shown video of if the person thinks of their arm, it appears
Oh, really?
on camera.
That I have never seen.
Yes.
But there's a lot between the earth and the skies that we don't know about.
So what else happened at this conference? And were you able to debate or discuss with the other people that were there?
Well, I didn't debate because I don't speak Russian, and I had a lady, a radio engineer, who was also a journalist of Anomalia magazine.
Właśnie,
at
filmu,
that
bo
time.
potem ta
And I
cała
asked her to
wyeliminowana.
come and sit next to me and interpret a little bit. But next day she just vanished.
za tajne.
Like I said in the previous interview, two
Momentami to
friends stayed
zniknie.
next to me, and one was a colonel, one was the general. And after that I was surveilled 24 hours, I'm sure. But it was interesting that after all this, they still asked me to come and see this hall. Why did they want to show it to me? And I asked the American lady who was there last year in an American UFO conference, did they invite you too? Because I was alone with them. And she said, no. Why did they invite me?
So you were alone with the Russians in this room?
Yes.
So Stapledine...
No, they went.
They weren't brought in.
And like I found out, they were not even invited. Interesting. I think the reason may be that I had lectured of Anatoly Malchev. And of course they know everything. Secret services in the US and Russia, they know everything.
So,
And they wanted to show me that, yeah, you're really dealing with something which is real. It's not just a story.
so were you able to talk to the Americans at all?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So with conversation,
No,
how were they...
I did not talk about this because this was at the end of the conference and we left.
But how did such a senior or high-ranking American group be in Moscow? This is before the Soviet Union broke up.
Yes, it was just about breaking up. I don't know. It was through Rima Leibo I found out about this conference. So it seems to me that Russia and US have very, very much in common with the space exploration, and it's only we, usual people, who don't know it, because they act as if they would be, confronting each other. No, they're big bells, like...
But more importantly, on this level of you...
Pofilmują jeszcze, dobrze?
That's right.
Nie przeszkadzaj, bo ty gadasz, to się wszystko nagrywa.
No jak to się nagrywa, jak nie ma przyłożonego kamery do tego?
Just as well Russians as Americans, that there is no threat, absolutely none. And one interesting thing was that came out of the conference that the Russians have lost many planes and pilots because of fightings with UFOs, and it's always we, Earth people, who attack. But of course their technology is maybe thousands of years ahead of us, so we always lose. And now it was stated there in the conference that now it's an order in Russia not to attack, because we always lose, and why should they lose their pilots and planes? So they know that they better let them be alone. But it came out also that there are, of course, two dimensions to the UFO question.
No ale babka ma dużo energii, zikrą.
Of course it's a mechanical one. I mean,
Dużo ciepła ma w sobie.
A mechanical device that flies.
I nie jest ciemna.
But then there is the pilots, the humanoids, and then that comes to the consciousness of the pilot.
O, widzisz,
And the consciousness of
Cierpliwość.
Nie, świadomość.
No, świadomość też.
And they also, which I think is one of the worst things that they don't want people to know, is time travel. They come from
No
our
trochę
future.
się orientujesz.
And they can also go back. I mean, there is a technology even for us, but it has taken many lives when they have been doing experimentations with Montauk project in the States, for instance. Young children especially, they die with these experiments.
Patrz, nawet
But when
kroki
you
słychać
think
na
that they
ulicy.
come from our future, so you could also state that we see our own future. Because a man is a mind, not a body, and we're multidimensional, which is something which is very hard for people to understand. But if you think that in your dreams, you are also in another frequency, and in your dreams you can go wherever. And we think that dreams are just a product of stress or your experiences and a product of your brain inactivity. Because today's medicine still holds on to the old paradigm that it's your brain that thinks, it's your brain that is the thing. It isn't. It's like a projector. Film is much more important than the projector, because projector can go kaput, you know, or something goes wrong. So, okay, you take the film and put it into a new projector, and it continues. That's exactly how a human being should be thought of. A human being is a consciousness, absolutely a consciousness, and can travel anywhere in the universe. And especially as proof, I would say that US military is training special officers into out-of-body experiences for espionage.
The remote viewing, that's why
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And also for space travel, because space travel is not that dangerous when you're out of your body in an energy form than if you are in a spaceship, which can go, like we have now read, I just have to laugh, that the toilets go kaput or something like that. That's the big news. But what really happens in space, that is never talked about, because NASA is a military, not a civilian institution like we think. And of course their secret astronauts and their secret programs to other planets, Mars, etc., and even further, are never revealed. I think it takes about 50 years before they really... Well, of course, hacking into somebody's computer is criminal. So in that respect,
O, nie lubią jej,
also
patrz.
it was so sensitive
Zaraz zniknie.
information that he gave that added to his...
Nie lubią jej. Ona jest za bardzo niebezpieczna.
in a way. But I'm happy he did that. That should
No,
be
ale ona jest
announced
profesorem
more, even
psychologii na
harassed when
Uniwersytecie
they
w
come up with
Helsinkach.
this. I know
No
it
to
from
bardzo
our
dobrze.
Umocowanie
I have
naukowe.
very few days
Także
in-
tak
in-
łatwo ją nie
in the whole
wypierdolą
year that I'm
z tego
not harassed
świata.
by neighbors or by somebody
Oj,
else. And I'm
niekoniecznie.
always harassed when I have given
A co z
an
tym
interview
Niemcewem
or a
zrobił?
lecture or written an article or written a book or whatever, then it really comes back, like, you know, revenge.
Na szczęście nie jest polityczką.
Yes, I just changed clothes this morning and
Jak
and
gdyby
I
była,
was
wiesz,
looking at-
polityczką,
I thought
to
maybe
by
I
ją
should have
szybko.
the same clothes on, but all of a sudden the shirt that I had on with little bricks gone. I bought it in the States, so I was really mad that it's gone. The same thing happened when I came from a non-lethal weapons conference in Germany. In 3 days, some Norwegians came in and made an interview, which is on internet, in insynsspejlet.no. And the very nice violet jacket that I had, the silk jacket,
O,
I loved it.
spodek
It was very
gdzieś
good,
tam leci,
and the color was,
bo
you know,
jest ten szum
transformation,
spodka
right?
latającego.
Ta babka jest podobna, wiesz do
So
kogo?
always something
Która
is
jest
gone.
kierowniczką
Every time I
Galerii
come home, I see
Delfiny
what have they
Potockiej.
taken now. It's
Bardzo
always
podobna.
but it's always emotional
I też ma
things.
takie te
And the
oczy
funny thing
trzeźwe.
is, really, that when I
Masz jeszcze
concentrate
kamerę?
my cell phone, like I had a
No to mówię ci, tą taśmę
Ale nie gadaj, bo jak ty gadasz, to wszystko tylko przeszkadzasz. To się nagrywa, no. Tak jakbyś był nie z XVII wieku.
Another thing,
So do you think that you've got company, invisible
I don't think so. I don't
To
think
nawet
most
można,
religious
wiesz,
organizations,
tam
but of course I
przesłać
have
na kanał
to.
taki. Tylko, że
Jak
jak...
przeszli, to nas wykonał.
Tylko, ale to nic nie da, bo jak oni usuną,
Nie, musisz przesłać na swój kanał.
jak oni usuną, to tam też nie
ale u
będzie.
ciebie będzie, bo kopia będzie.
Nie, tylko na pendrive'a jak się nagra.
Surveillance. And also, when I looked at some porcelain thing.
Nie mówię ci, on ją zdejmą, no bo ona jest niebezpieczna, za dużo mówi. No.
Next day, this way was gone. So they always react to the things that I concentrate on. I look at a photograph, well, I'm glad this I still have, it's gone. So either they are using this technology of remote viewing, mind control, whatever, through the satellites, or then it is physical, somebody is following with a radar through the walls. And of course that is always in an
A przechodzą przez ścianę,
Oh, yeah.
tak, ci co
Oh, yeah. They know.
śledzą.
They
Tak.
even know your thoughts. and faster than we do.
Ona
Because I
opowiada o swoich
mentioned our brain
doświadczeniach.
is very, very slow.
Że mam takie technologie, że chodzą po mieszkaniach niewidzialnych.
In the conferences with remote viewers, talk to them.
Remote viewers, no.
Tak, tak.
Tej branży.
Alexander at Monroe Institute. I heard that from an
Albo do
acquaintance of mine
choroszczy,
who's
że ich
working at
wywożą.
Monroe Institute in West Virginia, USA, and there they have layers of, well, it was I think three.
A tak baba chodzi, dziaduwa, aż to słychać. Daj spokój, jak to łazić tak w nocy?
Filmy, potem ale masz możliwość wsadzenia na tej taśmy swoje nagrane. Masz czy nie masz?
Jezus. Idzie cały czas, idzie.
Ale czy ty potem wsadzisz swoje?
A on wsadzi, tylko ty nie przeszkadzaj jemu, bo to wszystko słychać. Jak mówi 10 osób, to co potem będzie?
And all those in their cells hear it, and it starts with the waves of the Pacific. So you get really relaxed, and then it is an order, go. And where do you go? That is, you get out of your body, and you go to a Pacific island, for instance. It's a military base. It's always military, of course, because that's what they're interested in seeing. And then you go around, hovering around, you see everything, and come back and report. You can go to other planets, you can experience things, you can also go to the frequency of your dead relatives, and you can see them and talk to them. Well, I think it is, because Hollywood movies are often based on reality. Think of, movies like Control Factor from 2003. It shows exactly how mind control is done. It's old-fashioned technology, of course. They don't show today's technology. You know, they screw your neck with a device, but you don't need to, because the smallest ones are 2 micromilli. So you know it's old technology, but the idea is that they microchip you, and after that they control you. Totally.
I just want to try and combat this kind of mind control.
I think number one is awareness. You have to know that the technology exists, and it's nothing to do with pathology or you know that you're not crazy or whatever. But there's a good exercise, I just read it from a German doctor, that you can sort of, for just 1 minute, do certain exercises. Like this, for 20 seconds, you sort of disassociate. Then do the same with your ears for 20 seconds, and then do this 2-3 times a day. I couldn't understand how that could work, but I've done it, and it does work. It does work. So that's one thing that you can do.
This sort of subtly release tensions in
To jest zdolność parapsychologiczna.
That's right.
Albo to.
Ale niektórzy jeszcze potrafią nogi na głowę zakładać.
So at least that's something that you can try.
Ja znam taką Oleńkę, że potrafi nogę na głowę.
I teraz masz te zdolności boskie wtedy.
No.
Then they start seeing that there's something terribly wrong.
O, posłuchaj. There is something terribly wrong. Widzisz, nie wierzyłeś, a tutaj masz powód.
Tak, także on nie wierzył to urządzenie, ale ono to wszystko już nagrało. Od początku do końca. Takie sprytne. Komputer nie wierzył, a teraz uwierzył.
What sort of frequencies are we talking about? Are we talking extra low frequencies?
Well, like some 25 hertz or 9 hertz or whatever. Yeah. And then another thing is they are using drugs. And for instance,
rozpylają narkotyki w takie zapaszki piękne,
that's
a są
one way. I mean,
narkotyki.
putting into water and
Utleniają.
into your
Tak.
food.
I potem kaszel jest po tych narkotykach.
And they know it very well that they're not good for us. That affects also your brain activity and your psyche. But
that's involved with the food which the European Union are forcing on us.
Well, Americans are mostly forcing it. You know, the American companies, but with gene-modified food and things like that, and we do not know, and nobody knows what's going to happen, because they experiment on long range. And we don't know what happens in a year or 20 years. Just like we don't know what happens, except we start knowing now, what happens with mobile phones in 20 years. You know, they cause brain tumors and blindness and deafness and cancer and whatever, it's totally, totally known. But it's experimentation on a long range.
Do you think that those frequencies and those devices are specifically selected to test on us? Or do you think they're changing the species or trying to kill us or change us?
Well, at least they're making us very sick. And since the goal that I have read of the elite, if I can use that word, is to diminish our population on planet Earth by at least 2/3, maybe even 5 billion. So that's very, very
negative. Can you explore that more? I mean, we're facing this new disease which is coming out.
Swine?
Swine flu.
Oh, that's just rubbish. I mean, that is really rubbish. You know, it's not the swine flu that's dangerous, it's the injections. Because it's supposedly, it's not only swine, but it is human virus, mixed with swine virus, mixed with bird virus. And of course, behind the whole thing is to diminish world population, because it's very toxic, and to get milliards and milliards and milliards into the pockets of those who put them out. Rumsfeld is an owner also in one of the big drug companies. And since they want to diminish the population, so they start saying that children and pregnant women are the first ones. Eliminate the next generation.
So you've been trying to alert certain governments about this?
Not governments, but I have written information to Finland, because I don't think it's going to work. Because even if WHO...
It has been tried before in the late 70s?
Yes, 76 they had in the States the swine flu, and it was stopped, the injections, after 3 weeks, because so many people died or got Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is they were
Ale też po jakiemuś innemu zaczęła mówić już
so
język.
now they are making a little adjustment and doing it the same. And before that, they have also made sure in the States that people don't get compensation for the damage in their health, because previously, 76, they had to pay big amounts, like, you know, in the States their compensation is big when you destroy somebody's health. But now they have a law in the States that these companies are not liable, nothing in compensation if the patient is killed or if the patient is sick for life. So they have really thought about it.
So they can poison us and kill us and get away with it scot-free.
That's right.
So how is this happening? How are so many governments allowing this to happen?
Because they're not allowing it yet, because nobody has done anything yet. They are just having a scary program in the mass media. All mass media says, oh, it's going to be terrible. Now it's something, bang. It's a scary propaganda. And people get scared because they don't know. Now, WHO has ordered that, you know, everybody has to be by force injected. Previously, WHO did not have this ability to tell them to force any government, because it was only recommendations. But it was 97, 98, I recall, that they signed with 194, was it, states about that if there is a pandemic, or, you know, real serious pandemic, so then they give an order. Now, in the beginning already, in the beginning of June, WHO said pandemic 6, that's the highest. Now, go to any country in the world, people are not sick. There are not millions in swine influenza. So this was just done to force people and prepare the governments to give injections by force. But it's not going to work. I don't think Norway is going to do it.
So do you think the figures released by the World Health Organization are actually false? Or
of course they are. Of course. But you have to remember, why do they do this? Always remember who benefits. Who benefits? They have been forced, in my mind, to do this. And by who? Big Pharma. Big Pharma, which is, you know, deals with the world population and the world money and all this. It's millions.
So what's the ultimate strategy, do you think, that's happening with this? What's their target? What's their intent?
The target is to get rid of so many people as possible and to get as much money for them as possible. But I think they have calculated wrong this time, because already in the Bilderberg meeting, the 14th and 15th of May this year, 2009, in Hellas, there was almost a split when they were discussing this. And I can well imagine that people normally, attending do not always agree with Mr. Kissinger's plan to eliminate a great deal of world population. And now, for instance, yesterday the Finnish government made a decision, changed laws, which is very interesting, changed laws that swine influenza is not anymore on the list of being a dangerous, serious, contaminating disease. And that means that, of course, then people have to pay for themselves. It's a money question too. But in my mind, of course, this is a legal question for the lawyers, but in my mind, if something is not a dangerous, contaminations disease, you cannot be forced to take an injection, right? So I think they were very, very smart. Also, I just read that from the Folk Institute of Health in Norway, that director had said that there has never been many meaning to force people to take, but they can take an injection, and I hope nobody does, especially not children, especially not pregnant women, and actually nobody.
Where do you think the strategy of all these kinds of things, mind control, and the involvement with kinds of ETs, is there an extraterrestrial element here?
A very good question, because of course...
In other words, how much in bed are the secret authorities?
There's a lot of disinformation, especially from the States. They claim that they have ETs in Area 51, and one specifically, a gentleman I know from UFO conferences stated that he has been sitting in the same table with an ET, and they put on a was it blue or white shirt on him so that he would look more human. I think that's just BS. But the contacts that exist are both physical and mental, and I think the mental contacts are much, much more important because they happen with just anybody. The physical contacts with the military, when there's a crushed UFO, and if they get alien bodies, or if they get alive aliens like it has been claimed, and I don't doubt that that couldn't be true, so they get a lot of information. But it is not that aliens, so-called, would be dictating to us what we do. This is a free planet, and we have free will, and this is, in my mind, it's also an experimentation planet, because they have, in some planets, humanoids, people, intelligence beings, that have kind of a group intelligence, and they have a lot of clones. And we are just starting, in my mind, to have human clones. Although in '77, I was told already at the TV in Utah, they have had a clone on TV. But of course, there's no difference in cloning a human and cloning an ape or cloning a sheep or whatever. It's the same technology. And easier than that, of course, is to microchip the human population. Then they become biological robots. Oh, absolutely, absolutely, because the elite wants only the elite and slave class. They don't want the middle class, because middle class can, well, create a revolution.
Yes.
But slave class doesn't. And, of course, the elite just thinks that they are the ones who will have all the benefits and nobody else. I think David Icke has gone a little bit too far when he calls certain...
Jeszcze zakochasz się w tej kobiecie i zostaniesz niewolnikiem jej, boss.
In a way, if you think that man is a mind, not a body, and we're multidimensional, so a part of our energy could be in different dimensions at the same time, just as well in different planets. But to draw it into here and call people, whatever, wizards or aliens, and no. Again, our energies are multidimensional, can come from different places at the same time.
What kind of space contacts have you had?
I've had previously all kinds, mostly psychological, in dreams or in hypnosis, but also physical. I remember I was at that time in Rovaniemi, chief medical officer, and I had a friend visiting me. She was an actress, a young actress.
Sorry, this is in Finland?
This is in Finland, at the Polar Young actress was about 78, I think, around that time. And I had met Andrei Buhari, who is now deceased, but he was a...
Uri Geller and the
That's right. Yeah. And I had dinner with him once when we were both lecturing at the University of Wisconsin about UFOs. And he invited for a dinner date, and then told me that he and Yuri fly with UFOs. And I looked at him and I said, look, you're a respectable medical doctor, how can you tell me stories like this? And he said, but this is absolutely true. And I did not understand to ask, was it physical or was it mental flying? But anyway, then I confronted him. I said, well, why don't you come and take me along? I'd love to come. And he says, well, where do you live?
By way of a joke?
Yeah, in a way, I just, take me along. I'd love to fly. And then he asked all the details where I live, and I said it's next to a river, and there's a plane, so any plane could land if it comes like that. And he says, I have to ask for permission. And I thought, why does he, and who does he ask for permission? I was stupid not asking it, I just thought. And then I forgot about it, and 2 months passed. I was back in Doradzanie at home with this actress, and I was reading the booklet I had gotten just the same day, and it was called The First Contact. It was haiku poems, like the Japanese poems. And the name was First Contact. And then I just drifted my glance outside. Oh my Lord, look at that. There was maybe 100 yards from us, 100 yards from the ground, there was a UFO. And I had said, just come, like, ha. And I went into total panic, and so she did too. And I prayed, I said, please don't come, because I realized that now I'm dealing with something that I have no control over, absolutely none, and I don't know what's going to happen. It was hovering there for 15 minutes, and then it just flew away.
Because maybe you didn't come out and say hello.
I didn't do anything but pray
Hello,
that
Yuri, I'm here, restless.
No, I did not do but pray, don't come. And we were both totally shocked, and after it left, then we said, no, it was the moon. The moon isn't 100 yards from me, 100 yards from the crowd, come on. And we tried to make normal explanations, and
so
we couldn't.
So in what way? Was this at night time? Or?
It was evening, yeah, it was evening. And the next morning I opened the papers, and that was a bigger shock, because, you could say that, okay, you just dreamt it or whatever. We were totally awake. No, it was 100 people who had called the police and called the newspaper and reported they had seen a phenomena of light or whatever right there next to the river. Then they asked the Commander-in-Chief of Lapland Air Force, and he said it was a Soviet rocket which stopped for 15 minutes to say hello, Rami, right? 4 years passed, there was a new commander at Lapland Air Force, and they asked about this incident again. And he said it was a flock of birds. I don't think that our standard, which is very, very internationally high, is that low in the Air Force. It was a straight lie, which they have to give. I have now found out that they have to say it's a flock of birds or planet Venus or whatever, Soyuz. They have to say that if they have had no permission to say that it was a UFO. And usually they never have permission. Then I talked also to the chief of the airport of Doradzanie. At that time, he's long ago retired, maybe even dead now, but he was a classmate of my mother. So that's why we started talking, and I asked him, have you ever seen? He said twice. Twice he's seen a UFO pass, whoop, past the Rovaniemi airport. Isn't that interesting? Nobody has ever written about that. Well, I only have a couple, things that I want to stress very, very much. And that is number one, man is a mind and a body, so we are energy. Number two, we cannot die. We can never die. Our body dies, yes, but we are not our body. And then we are absolutely not alone in the universe. And the question of ETs, humans, death, is one question. We're all one. We're all one in the energy. And we can live in our future. They can come to our past. And there's absolutely no death. There's no time in the universe either.
Yeah, our perception of time is
completely wrong. But we're here to learn. We're here for
Jest
some
bardzo
reason.
skromna kobieta. Ma taką twarz, taką miłą. Wcale jakby ona nie była staruszką.
Ona ma.
No to widać.
When you or anybody has had a a cat or a dog
Profesor
or
psychologii
or
na
whatever,
Uniwersytecie w
of course,
Chocimkach.
you absolutely
No ale zobacz,
know that there's a consciousness.
jak to szybko człowiek się starzeje, bo 60 to jeszcze, ale 70
Why would we
to już taka staruszka, nie?
with consciousness?
Co to jest 10 lat?
Ale to jest naukowiec.
No, co to jest 10 lat?
From some other humanoid forms, different from dolphins, different from whales, but they all have consciousness. So we should start concentrating on the consciousness of people. And that way we would see that we're all one. We
Wiadomo,
would not
konsensus.
anymore have wars and killings and things like that. But before that, the elite, who wants only power and money, has to change. And it's up to every one of us.
Będę
to
musiała
send
ją
love
do
and light,
chorobcy.
change. And that may be the biggest weapon we ever have. That is the power of our mind.
O, widzisz jaka fajna muzyka? No, o to chodzi. Tak,
Gaszę.
także widzisz, ja ci coś powiem.
Idziemy spać.
Bardzo miła kobieta, bardzo miła kobieta. No. A ten Chmurzyński to był w Angloameryce Białystok kiedyś.